Oh, hello there. My name is Arthur Austin, and today I'm going to be reading a short story from my Magic, Monsters, and History collection. So find somewhere comfy, get a good snack, and let's forget our problems for just a little while. This is Lady in Blue, written by Arthur Austin, and edited for grammar by ChatGPT. Julien stood at the edge of the third-floor balcony, eyes fixed on the rising moon. The Parisian sky never seemed so beautiful. A wave of restless heat coiled in his chest, the moonlight brushing cold against his skin, yet he shoved the ache deep down. Below, more cars rolled to the grand entrance, engines humming like a swarm of locusts. Julien was here on a mission. The day since the Krauts stormed into the city, he'd been a ghost in the resistance, smuggling weapons, sabotaging supply lines, and cutting through enemy lines like a shadow. Their grand entrance haunted him still. The harsh clatter of tanks on cobblestone, crimson banners dripping like fresh wounds from every balcony, a parade of true arrogance. But tonight was different. This mission was different. British intelligence, something called MI6, had come to the resistance with a deal. Guns and ammo for retrieving a file supposedly recovered by one of their operatives in Paris. The only briefing? A code name. Howler. The usual suspects arrived below, generals puffed with false pride, and politicians polished like trophies. Julien smelled their fear and cheap bravado. "Les pauvres," he exhaled, forcing calm over the fire. Just as he turned to leave, the last car pulled up, and something froze him. An attendant opened the door. A man stepped out, hair white as bone. His charcoal three-piece suit clung like robes of a noble, red gloves stained as if from battle. A crimson silk handkerchief spilled from his breast pocket, shining bright against his ghost-pale face. His slicked-back hair betrayed no sweat, only cold precision. He turned back, offering his hand. Then, from the car, she emerged. A note lifted from a symphony, her gown bled blue, deeper than the ocean's darkest trench, swallowing light whole. Strawberry hair tumbled past her shoulders in wild defiance, clashing with the gown's rigid grace. And for a moment his breath ceased. He caught her laugh at the man's whispered words, soft but dangerous. His sharp eyes locked on to the leather briefcase in the man's free hand, small, dark, and unassuming. Howler. He slipped back inside. The boarding house he had once known as a refuge had transformed. A stolen art gallery. Marble statues stood like silent jurors. Tapestries and portraits bathed the floor in golden haze. Descending the stairs, Julien spotted her again, weaving through the crowd towards Auberg, the SS head in Paris, a high-value target for the resistance. Auberg prowled the room like a king in a cage. If I get the chance, Julien thought, muscles coiling. The man he'd identified as Howler had drifted deeper into the party. Julien snagged a champagne glass from a passing server, lifted it to his nose, and froze. The scent curdled his stomach. He snarled softly, setting the glass down without a word. Howler had joined another officer. Julien tightened, ready to move, until a light touch grazed his shoulder. "Fancy," a voice whispered, thick with German-accented French. "You wear a gentleman's clothes, but your eyes scream peasant." Julien spun. She stood before him, green eyes blazing like emerald fire, color breaking through the gray haze. "What?" he breathed. "Dance with me. I want to know you, strange man." Before he could respond, she wrapped her hands around his neck. His own found her waist, hesitant. She smirked, sensing his pull back. They moved fluidly, the classical music binding them. Each step a whispered secret played with perhaps passion or fear. "Thanks for the dance, monsieur," she probed. Lucien." Julien lied. Anya. She smiled. What drags a poor boy to a gala like this? Unlimited booze. Makes the women prettier, and the hors d'oeuvres taste like food. She laughed softly. A classic grift. One I used to pull in my youth. Used to? Her smile thinned. So, Monsieur Vallon, do you dream of more? Freedom? A home? Now his smile faltered. I don't have a home. Aw, orphan boy. Something like that. You? I grew up in Munich. Aunt and uncle married. In 32 they came, took my family. I wasn't blood related, so they let me go. Since then, I've been a loyal servant of the Reich. Loyal, huh? Planning to turn me in? She glanced down, then met his gaze. Not yet. Julien chuckled hollowly. Must be slipping if I get not yet this fast. She slid her fingers down his jacket's side, brushing over his concealed weapon. Then maybe you're not as strange as I thought. Or maybe I'm not as loyal. Howler, Julien growled, stone setting in his gut. There he is, she smiled coldly. Where's the file? She nodded towards the pale man. With him. If you hadn't come, I'd have sold it to High Command. He still thinks that's the plan. Meet me for a smoke, if you survive. Wouldn't miss it. As the music died, Julien turned, then froze. Amid the swirl of perfume, paint, and alcohol, something else clawed at his senses. Animal, wild, feral. No, she couldn't be. Howler. Of course. He moved towards the back of the room, the officer and the pale man disappearing through a back door. Julien's body relaxed. No more masks. He stepped inside, and both men looked up. Let's skip the guns, gentlemen. Would only spoil the night, and these fine folks came for a party. Julien sprang from the wall, claws extended, nails morphed into deadly blades, eyes flared yellow. The pale man struck fast, slamming Julien back into the wall. Fucking man-dog, he spat. Julien kicked him into a desk, shattering wood and glass. The officer drew a pistol. Julien tore into his hand until the weapon dropped. Fangs sank deep into the man's throat. Tossing the body aside, the pale man staggered, rising. Julien cracked his neck. This isn't even my best. Come on, make me transform. He lunged. The man caught him midair, driving him into the ground. Blow after blow rained down, relentless and brutal. Julien could barely block. Snarling, he twisted, sinking his teeth into the man's arm. Jet-black blood poured and welled. A headbutt staggered him back, and Julien pounced. They crashed through furniture, shards flying, blood and wine spraying like a twisted mural. An elbow cracked ribs, and Julien howled, not from the pain, but in fury. Enough. Leaping into the air, he flipped over the pale man, using his legs to sprint across the ceiling and landing on his back. Claws dug deep, and with a savage rip, spine and nerve gave way. Both men crashed to the ground. The pale man gasped, paralyzed, and Julien staggered, bloodied, but healing fast. He grabbed the case off the floor. The pale man attempted to reach out for it, and Julien spat on him. Good luck regrowing that, bloodsucker. He crashed through the window, limping into the courtyard, injuries already fading. Julien looked up. Anya, standing upon the rooftop alone, shifting. Her gown and skin peeled back like a snake shedding its old self. She stood monstrous, towering, elegant, a she-wolf silhouetted against the bright moon. She howled, a raw sound wrapped in sorrow and promise. Julien smirked. He opened the case. Inside, a file. A lion and a bird's crest marked the front. MI6 clearly. The label read, Augur. He slipped it back, lit a cigarette, and vanished into the night. Another mission in the books. And that, my friends, was Lady in Blue. I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed reading it. A dangerous dance of werewolves and vampires, spy espionage, and the mysterious augur file. If you guys would like to hear more from this world and want my voiceovers to improve, consider supporting the channel by hitting one of those YouTube buttons. And go check out my Instagram at ArthurLovesLife for more stories and other fun life content. My name is Arthur Austin, and I hope you all have a legendary day.